Reaction AI SDK Simulation walkthrough. In this video, I wanted to go through a simulation of Reaction AI, which is an artificial intelligence engine for NPCs that learn over time and decide what best move would it have to do with a given variables to a particular avatar action. How should it react? What's the best thing? What's worked for me the most in the past? So before we get into that, your NPC, each one of them has a brain, and this brain first needs to be initialized. It has a certain number of neurons, which I'll get into later, but let's initialize the personality of this NPC first, and each NPC can have a different personality depending on how you initialize it. It's initialized with this JSON object. This is just an example object of reactions. So over here I have 5 reactions. You can have as many reactions as you want, as long as the ID of the reaction is unique. Reaction 1 could be attack, reaction 2 could be block, reaction 3 could be flee. Each of these reactions has a list of sub-reactions. You can have as many sub-reactions as you want as well for each of the reactions. However, the ID of the sub-reaction must be unique across all of the sub-reactions. So one may be, let's say we said attack, sub-reaction 1 may be high attack, and emotion 1 may be angry. So each of the sub-reactions is mapped to an emotion as well, so you construct this with whatever values you want as long as they fit the constraints. So let's say emotion 3 was scared, and sub-reaction 3 for reaction 1 was furious attack. So it only does this when it's actually scared. So you map these emotions, and these emotions, you have 10 of them you can work with in the SDK. They can be whatever you want, and they can be reused to map to different sub-reactions throughout the reaction object. So that's how you initialize a personality and how it starts reacting to avatar actions. These will all be processed and calculated and optimized for the NPC as it starts learning. However, the mapping still remains. You cannot have reaction 1 with sub-reaction 8. So that's still a constant in the NPC. So given that, let's say we create a brain of 30,000 neurons. So I'm going to create this brain. Now I'm going to say avatar is performing action number 1. So remember, it's difference between avatar action and NPC reaction. So avatar action number 1, let's say, is an attack. Now the brain has 30,000 neurons in this case, and when you send a stimuli, it sends electrons, which activates neurons, which is going to be a subset of the total number of neurons in the brain. Also, the brain is broken up into different regions. So for example, when we send stimuli 1, the NPC responds with reaction 5, sub-reaction 17, emotion 5, visual rank 4, and speed val 1. So it's got a pretty good visibility, which is processed in a certain part of the brain with its own number of neurons that it generates, and speed value is 1, which means that a lot of the neurons in the movement processing part of the brain weren't active. So there are algorithms like that that help determine this. So let's just say this is the reaction. We're going to say that no, this reaction was not very successful for the NPC against the avatar when it responded like this. So we're going to say it only had a 5% success rate. We're going to clear the stimuli, send a new stimuli. No, it still wants to try it with different emotions, and it's still not very successful. So now you see it's decided to use reaction 2 and sub-reaction 6. Let's just say this was even worse. So we're going to give this a memory success rate of 2%, which it stores in the memory associated with all this data. So now it shows 414 as a reaction and sub-reaction. So let's just say this was actually quite successful. So we're going to give it a success percent of 80. We're going to store that in its memory and try it again. It actually stays at 414, which it likes. I'm giving you different visual ranks and different speed values. So far it's learned that 414 is doing well. Let's say the avatar then changes to a different action value. We're going to send it. 414 is still there because it's most recent in its memory, it's fresh in its mind. but this did not do very well for action number 2. So it should start learning that 414 was not very successful for avatar action 2, and now you see we've gotten 3.9 with an emotion value, visual rank, and speed value. Let's just say this is actually not a bad success percent for the NPC to return this and have the NPC react accordingly. So 3.9 seems to be good. It likes 3.9. It stays at 3.9. Still doing pretty good. So if we, over time, I'll show this. Let's say this time it was 90%. So now let's say we go back to avatar action 1. 3.9 was most recent in its brain. Added to memory, not very successful. Still not very successful. So it's learning that this is not a good reaction to the avatar action number 1, which it learned. It's trying 1.3 now. This is still not very good. And here you see it's learned that it's found in its memory, and the brain has been optimized enough to know that 414 was actually what was the most successful value for reacting to avatar action 1, and it still likes 414. So now it's realized it's realized that this is working for it. So it's going to continue unless you start changing the success percent of this. So let's just say it's still 90% success rate. If you go back to 2, it's thinking that 414 was still the best, which is not the case. And I believe it will take 3.9 if I remember correctly, or 2.8 this time, still not very good. 2.8 still not very good. 3.9. So now it's remembered that 3.9 was actually the successful part of the reaction to avatar action number 2. So this is going to continue to win unless we start changing it, and we can start changing it. An example of that would be, now let's say the avatar souped up its action number 2. So now this is actually going to be a poor reaction to avatar action 2, and over time it will learn and adjust itself that 3.9 is not the best reaction to avatar action 2 anymore. So it goes back to 414, which is what it was successful for it for avatar action 1. It's going to try this. So it learns. It's trying to optimize. It's going to average out all of its memory depending on how well the brain is working at that given point in time. Similarly, you can go on to so let's just say this did well this time. So now both for 1 and 2, it looks like 414 is the best reaction and sub-reaction. Again, this follows suit for other avatar actions. Let's say 3. So let's say 3 was, no, 90% is not the best. So avatar action 3, it's learning over time that this is not still the best reaction for a particular avatar action. So now it's choosing a completely different, throughout the algorithm, it's learned that 310 may be actually the best reaction to do for avatar action 3. And let's just say this is successful and we program it as such. So now it's staying at 310 and it's not changing. Anyways, that's a quick demo of a simulation for Reaction AI. Thank you.